Art Deco is best exemplified through a strong sense of stylization, symmetry, geometric and rounded design, patterns, and streamlining, all in the name of making something appear high class and modern. American railroads were no stranger to this emerging trend. 1934 saw the introduction of Union Pacific's M10000 and the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy's Pioneer Zephyr. These streamliners, among others, set a new standard in terms of appearances. Railroads were hoping to get passengers back on board during the cash-strapped era that was the Great Depression by modernizing their fleet. News outlets, passengers, and onlookers were thoroughly impressed by these bold and modern-looking trains, bringing some greatly needed positivity to a melancholic nation. The New York Central Railroad first experimented with streamlining in 1934 with the Commodore Vanderbilt locomotive thanks to Carl Cantola. His work was received very well, with the papers declaring it ushered in a new era for locomotive design. The Central then greenlit a project to establish a new streamlined passenger train running between Detroit, Michigan and Cleveland, Ohio with a focus on speed and innovation. In 1935, renowned industrial designer Henry Dreyfuss was hired to spearhead its design in cooperation with the Central's Equipment Engineering Department. Initial concepts proved to be too expensive and the project was nearly canned, but Dreyfuss noticed a surplus of Putnam Division commuter coaches sitting in Mott Haven Yard. He suggested to the Central's president that the unused cars could be overhauled, an existing locomotive could be streamlined, and the entire train could be completed at a quarter of the original cost. What rolled out of the railroad's Beech Grove shops would prove to be a masterpiece in Art Deco design. It was the Mercury, named after the Roman god of commerce and eloquence, and was a fast-paced messenger of the gods. Up front was a K5B locomotive encased in a medium gray streamlined shroud. Its round upside-down bathtub appearance allowed wind to slip past the locomotive, reducing its resistance and increasing operating efficiency. The railroad's logo proudly presented itself up front, with pinstriping around the pilot. An opening was left in the shroud to flaunt the two-tone 79-inch driving wheels and valve gear, highlighted at night by specially installed lamps. Trailing behind were 7 cars consisting of a combine, coach, coach kitchen, diner, lounge, parlor, and a parlor observation car. The interiors were gorgeous works of art. Dreyfuss looked to evoke the atmosphere of a private club, breaking up the linearity of a conventional train interior where it was a straight-line walk all the way through. Rounded counters, tables, and seats in the middle of the hall broke up the monotony and provided for a more dynamic look. Vibrantly colored furnishings and walls set a mood of prestige, while natural colors relaxed passengers in the lounge car. Uniquely rounded vestibules allowed passengers to seamlessly move between cars as if they were in a club lobby. The observation car also featured a speedometer, reminding passengers of the train's operating speed of 60 to 80 miles per hour. As a whole, the train had a visually pleasing, smooth and streamlined silhouette. Aluminum trim provided some color contrast and tied the whole concept together as one united piece. The Central's West Albany and Beech Grove shops released the finished locomotive and cars respectively in June 1936, and the concept toured parts of the Central system, stopping to be displayed in the Northeast and Midwest. A christening ceremony was held in Indianapolis, Indiana on June 25, 1936. In Chicago, over 17,000 people visited and toured the train in one day at LaSalle Street Station. The press heralded the Mercury as the train of tomorrow, praising its luxurious and futuristic appearance and modern air conditioning, soundproofing, bar, and smoking room. Promotional material depicted the train as a stylish, futuristic, and sleek silver machine flying along the line. Plenty of geometric shapes, lines, and bold and condensed typefaces filled out the Art Deco quota. The Mercury made its first run from Detroit to Cleveland, making one stop in Toledo, on July 25, 1936. All of this work greatly paid off for the New York Central. On average, 290 passengers rode the train each day, with 53,337 riders in the first 6 months. The public adored the train's appearance, so much so they'd line up trackside just to watch the Mercury fly by at night with its illuminated valve gear. After just 1 year of service, demand for the streamliner proved so high that 2 coaches were added to the consist. Daily service was quick and concise, shuttling passengers from the Beaux Arts Michigan Central Station, Toledo's Gothic Union Terminal, until arriving at Cleveland's magnificent Beaux Arts Union Terminal in less than 3 hours. Notable clientele included actor Jack Webb and the Detroit Tigers and Cleveland Indians baseball teams. The train's success inspired the creation of another Mercury service in November 1939. This was the Chicago Mercury, running from Chicago to Detroit with streamlined Hudson locomotives done up in the style of the 20th Century Limited, and 10 cars mimicking the original Mercury. One train set would run from Cleveland to Detroit as the Cleveland Mercury, and then continue on to Chicago as the Chicago Mercury. The other set would do the opposite. A new member to the Mercury family came about in April 1941 with the James Whitcomb Riley between Cincinnati and Chicago. The two Pacific locomotives from the original Mercury were put in charge, featuring a new streak of red paint hauling more conventional cars. 1949 saw one final newcomer to the family, the Cincinnati Mercury, which was renamed to the Queen City and ousted from the Mercury family that same year. The original name came back as a new Cincinnati to Cleveland run in 1951. All of these trains proved successful in their own right, but by this point, times were a-changin'. Diesels replaced the streamlined Pacifics and Hudsons, and new lightweight cars by Pullman and Budd replaced the aging Mercury stock. American passenger trains found themselves losing out to faster and flexible highway and airline travel as the 50s progressed. The Cincinnati Mercury's name fell in 1956, the Chicago Mercury was merged with the Wolverine service in '58, and the Cleveland Mercury was the last to go in July 1959. The James Whitcomb Riley was the only survivor. It was passed down to Amtrak when they took over America's intercity passenger network in 1971, with their Cardinal train taking its place in 1977. The New York Central's Mercury was a masterclass in Art Deco design. Henry Dreyfuss combined industrial design with elegant streamlining and provided passengers with a high-class interior featuring club-like amenities and contemporary color schemes of the era. This is how the future of train travel was perceived, but of course, design trends are always evolving. The 1950s and 60s simplified the streamlined aesthetic, while the 70s and 80s took inspiration from airline design and utilized more earthly and expressive color schemes. Today, new equipment by Siemens looks to modernize Amtrak's 50-year-old passenger fleet with brighter, minimalist interiors decked out in contemporary blues, grays, and whites. This is meant to be the future of intercity American train travel. New design trends and standards in accessibility, technology, and safety must be considered, and it leads to a very different look to that of the Mercury. Amtrak's Connects Us expansion plan looks to revive the route of the Mercury by connecting Detroit with Cleveland and another train from Cleveland to Cincinnati. While it may not be the same streamliner of the 1930s, Amtrak is forging its own path forward with a new perspective on the future of rail travel. We can always look back on history and see how the trains of tomorrow like the Mercury were just one stepping stone to get where we are today. Thank you to my channel members. Special thanks to Mooter, Tommy Rosini, Grand Canyon Studios, Amtrak Fan 19, Gojira's Trains, The Winnipeg Rail Fan, Jack O'Beans, Jackboy317, Kits, and the Warrior Cats Train Enthusiast for subscribing to the Conductor tier. Your extra support always helps me out a lot. Real quick though, I'd like to recommend picking up the book New York Central's Mercury by Richard J. Cook Sr. Much of the information I got came from here, and it's a great read with lots of rare pictures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.